Greetings, my friends! Welcome to this edition of Art and Coffee, the video series dedicated to helping you find and forge your own unique voice in the realms of art and visual storytelling. As always, this is yours truly, Gabe Dunston, and I am just as happy as I could be that you decided to watch this video or to listen to it and just spend some time together with me. I'm happy to have you. It really warms my heart. Now, today's coffee is from Counterculture Coffee Roasters because it's still my favorite and it's still COVID times and I still just want my favorite coffee. However, fun fact, my favorite coffee is now the 46 blend. The hologram blend is still the business, it's still the good stuff, but the 46 is just a little bit richer, a little bit bolder of a flavor, perhaps a bit more chocolatey, a little bit more chocolate notes than the other. And that might just be how I'm sweetening it, because I absolutely do cream and sugar, because I'm not a psychopath, and only psychopaths drink their coffee black. I'm just kidding, a lot of my friends drink theirs black, but I am suspicious of those friends. Anyway, enough about the stinking coffee, let's get into today's topic. Today's topic concerns one of the great grand art killers that is so easy to become susceptible to, especially when you're starting out. This is the first hump that you have to get over in terms of your maturity as an artist, and that is the hump where it becomes necessary to finish. And this is going to be counterintuitive. This is hard. This is really, really hard, because so many artists and art teachers describe excellence. You are trying to achieve excellence. And so many art teachers are like, you know, when you're excellent, when you're truly great, that's when you get the job. A career is built on excellence. And I'm here to tell you, nope, not necessarily. Careers, sustainable careers, are built on a very, very, very keen sense of good enough. It's when you're making your art and it's time to move on, and it's not perfect, but good enough. And you move on. And for a lot of people, that's not okay. Part of it is because the concept of excellence or perfectionism or perfectionists have been so romanticized that so much of reality is forgotten. And now, I hasten to add, by all means, pursue excellence in everything that you do. No matter what you do, no matter what you are, be a good one, be the best one that you can. But the trick is, the answer, the name of the game, is be your best, or better spoken, be the best that you can. Because none of us are perfect. And in fact, it's the imperfections where so much of our human charm is able to come out. Now, I've begun this video already talking about highfalutin concepts, and I hope that I haven't lost you. So let me backtrack real hard, and let me get very, very laser focused on a real life example so that you can understand what's happening and where I'm coming from. My daughter, God bless her, is interested in art and doing artsy things. She's still, at the time of this recording, she's still young, she's still school-aged, and she's working on an art project with a friend of hers. She's working on making a slideshow, which as a longtime comics man, I'm like, that sounds awesome, because it's essentially the same concept. It's images and words in a sequence, right? So cool, she's making a funny slideshow using clip art and whatnot. But she was working on the same slideshow for hours over the course of a week, just hours a day. Kid, what's going on? Like, you still working on that same slideshow? Oh, no. I start one and then I get almost done and I think of a way that I could make it better. And so I don't finish it. I just start another one. And then while that one is almost finished, I think of a way to make it better, so I start over to try and make it better. And this slays me a little bit, because this is super, super common. This is a thing that every artist has done, particularly in the early years, but it's dangerous, because this is essentially the pursuit of perfection. You're not going to get it. You're going to get better. You're going to get excellent with persistence and practice, but perfect you ain't. And this is the art killer. She what I tried to tell her and what I am telling you is she should go ahead and finish one. See how she could have made it better, and then apply that to the next one. Because remember, art is a numbers game. The more art you make, the better you are. Now, the better of an artist you become, rather. Now, a lot of people believe really, really hard in, you got to get it right, and you got to work that same image over and over and over again until you get all of the details exactly right. Filmmakers are like this a lot. I've been on kind of a movie kick here at home, and Stanley Kubrick was a famous director, famous for his perfectionism, and he's been lionized and venerated by so many film students because he would do the same scene for over 127 takes in order to get it perfect. And I'm here to tell you that's not good. That's not where perfection comes from. And in fact, for Stanley Kubrick specifically, that's actually where a little bit of mental illness lives. But I digress. Because characters like Stanley Kubrick, and because some of the movies he made are so famous, and because he's been so lionized for his quote-unquote perfectionism, so many young artists of every stripe, musicians, visual artists, comic artists, filmmakers, believe that they should also strive for this perfection. And I hate to tell you, you're not going to get perfect. And in fact, you could really hurt yourself pursuing that kind of perfection. The way that Kubrick definitely hurt himself and 100% hurt the actors and actresses and the crew working with him when he made those movies. Jack Nicholson had to be smacked in the head with a faux baseball bat and fall down a flight of stairs 127 times. That's not good. Even if you have all of the safety measures in place, even if you are a trained stuntman, that's dangerous stuff 127 times. And that's not good. That's how people get hurt. And you can 100% hurt yourself in the pursuit of your art. And one of the ways you could hurt yourself is by beating yourself up. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I could do better. I'm going to start over. I'm going to do better. That's beating yourself up. That's bad. You're hurting yourself. Stop it. The second way that you could hurt yourself is you don't actually get better at your art. Because if you recall, in a previous video, what are the 3 ways you do to get better at your art? Number 1, and this is for a visual artist. Number 1, draw from life. Photographs count. Number 2, draw all the time, as much as you can. Most people recommend drawing a little something every day. If you move your pencil for 8 minutes, that counts. And if you can't draw every day, that's okay, just as much as you can. And rule number 3, the one that I'm stamping on with both feet today. Finish. You're allowed to decide what finished means. That's all in your hands. And it is imperative that you finish because if you recall, art is a numbers game. The more art you make, the better you get at it. And there's also a tiny element of lottery to it. The more art you make, the more likely, the more chances you have to make something that really, really resonates with people. Because what does and does not resonate with people now or at a different point in time is so strange that it's and difficult to predict that it might as well be winning a lottery or a jackpot of some kind. So the more art you make, the more chances you have at that particular jackpot of making a difference in somebody else's life. For instance, Mozart was absolutely a child prodigy, but he wasn't that much of a genius to have so many of his musical works still played today. What happens was he's one of the most prolific composers that ever lived, which on the one hand means that he got so much more practice at his specific art form than most other practitioners of that art form. And on the other hand, is he had so many completed works that he had so many entries to the lottery of what resonates with people at that time and at this time now. And so that's how Mozart is a big deal. He made a lot of finished works. And so that's what you've got to do with your art, and why my poor daughter was in just a little bit of trouble that she didn't recognize because she is so young. Instead of having, at the end of a week of many hours of work, instead of having a small body of work accumulated, she had a bunch of abandoned projects, a bunch of false starts. and the confidence that comes with completing something she didn't get. And the knowledge and the surrender to the concept of this is the best I can do right now, she doesn't have. And that is, she didn't have right away. And so instead fell into something of a neurotic trap that is so easy for all of us to fall into, that I think everyone listening to this is either in the middle of now or has fallen into before. The trap of, I can do better. I will do better. I'm going to do better right now. Now, this is a trap. This is a trap that's inside of your mind that's sprung, and it's also kind of a lie, because the trick is, you can't do better right now. Right now, you've done the best that you can do. You are doing your best at this instant. You can do better tomorrow. You can do better on the next one. But on this one here, this is the best you've got. And understanding that, accepting that, will help you to finish and move on and make more artwork. And also, it kind of helps you to accept yourself as you are. This is the best I can do today. This is the best I can do on this one. And on the next one, I will know better and I will do better. And that should be the attitude that I would like everyone listening to this. I would like for you to adopt that attitude to every mistake you've ever made in your life. I did the best I could then. I messed up. And tomorrow I will know better. That way your mistake stays behind you and does not recur in your mind and keep up with you and haunt you. So now we're going to discuss the strategies that you can use to help you get to the point where you can start finishing more. And that is to swallow what was for me a very difficult pill, the hard pill of good enough, as opposed to perfect, as opposed to excellent, as opposed to great, good enough. And it was a hard pill to swallow when I realized that's where career lives. That is where career longevity lives. Not in excellence, but in good enough. The moment where I discovered this is when early in my webcomicking days, I'd been following webcomics for many years, since I was in middle school, and I started making my own. And the way that I approached my own was the excellence path. I'm going to put all kinds of background details and environmental details into this establishing shot, and I'm going to make sure that every other panel has some kind of environment detail in it. And what I was trying to do was really just tell a joke. I wasn't trying to set a scene. I wasn't trying to establish a mood. I was just telling a joke with my comic. But putting that perspective and that environment into my establishing shot, that's excellence. And so I'm reading a webcomic and I'm listening to a podcast where the creator is talking about it. And he's making a joke strip comic that's a science fiction comic. And he says, I really, really wanted to draw the outside of the ship for my establishing shot and just make it beautiful and do it from a different perspective. But it's a daily strip. My strip is due tomorrow. And I'm just making a quick, schlocky little joke. So I just took a stock image that I'd already made of the ship and put that in panel 1. And that broke my heart, because I'm like, you could have given me some really A-grade artwork. You could have really pushed yourself and gone the extra mile and given me this great establishing shot, but instead you phoned it in, gave a stock establishing shot. What is this? This is garbage. I thought, this particular guy was making a living off his comic. It's like, I thought you were a professional. I thought professionals really applied themselves. I thought professionals brought the heat, And no, professionals ship. Professionals deliver. I was mistaken and rather heartbroken, because I wanted to see him push himself art-wise, but at the end of the day, he's like an establishing shot with the spaceship that it takes place on from a different angle and making it look beautiful doesn't actually enhance the strip, because this particular strip is not selling a story point, it's selling a very short, schlocky joke. That's the focus. Therefore, any establishing shot that lets us know just where it takes place, that's good enough. And if you went the extra mile, that strip would be late. That strip would not necessarily be completed or not completed on time. And professionals, people doing art for a living, The number one thing to do is not perfection. It's not excellence. It's they have to ship. If you don't have anything to ship, then you've got no means by which, no finished artwork to monetize into your career. And therefore, that career is built on not excellence, but good enough. Now, this is not true for every bit of artwork. There's some places where it's like, no, this one takes the extra mile. In movies, any scene with a special effect, it's like, I need to make sure that this special effect goes off without a hitch. Because if it doesn't, it will wreck the movie. It will take people out of the moment. That's when it's time to really knuckle down. In comics, for instance, if you have a story-driven comic that takes place in a very exotic place, maybe it's the far past, maybe it's the far future, maybe it's an alternate reality, maybe it's science fiction, maybe it's fantasy, you have to really sell the environment where it takes place. And in order to do that, then you might need to put the extra mileage into your environment. Then you might need to really throw down the detail and take the time. But the trick is not doing more than you have to. You don't need to draw every brick in a building to let your audience know that building is made of brick. You can hint at the texture. Not every single brick is always important. And that's where the concept of good enough comes from. The concept comes from the knowledge of what is important at this moment in the story. What do the people need to see? What do they need to know? And delivering on that, and delivering on only that. Because going the extra mile is stopping you from finishing, and is stopping you from shipping. And finished art is what you're after. Because the one painting or the one comic or the one sculpture or the one short film that you worked, the one novel that you've been writing for 10 years because you've been rewriting it for 9, that's not where your growth as an artist lives. Your growth as an artist, the place where you actually get better, is in finishing and moving on to the next one. Because the next one will also be finished and will make you even better. And then the one after that will be even better. But the one that you keep working and reworking, you're not going to improve that way. And in fact, you're only going to make yourself crazy. And, in fact, sometimes your audience doesn't want that from you. Sometimes the ultra polish that comes from working and reworking the same bit of art takes the charm out of it. This is when I'm circling back. It's something that I said earlier on. Perfect you ain't, and perfect you ain't gonna be. And that's good, that's wonderful, because the imperfections are where the charm lives. How many bands do you know that you think, oh man, their first album was killer? It was this low budget, lo-fi affair, and it's clear that it was being recorded in like a bathroom or a closet or something, and they were just doing their best with what they had, and it was a buzzword I hear a lot. It was so raw. It was real. It was all right there. And it was awesome. Like, how many bands do you know like that? How many bands have you heard like that? And then, say, the second or third or fourth album, it's like, it's overproduced. It's too smooth. It's too good. All of the levels are exactly right. And so much of the charm that was in the original is missing. In my day, Green Day was that band. The Dookie album was so amazing. It was this indie hit, and then they signed with Warner Brothers. And then the next album that came out, which I think was Nimrod, which is actually my personal favorite, all of the punk purists were like, it's too good. All the charm that was in the Dookie album is missing. And the charm came from the imperfections. The imperfections that were sincere because they were coming from a group of people that were doing their best. So if you're doing your best and you're kind of missing and you're not getting exactly right, that's okay. Because charm lives in so many of your mistakes, especially if those mistakes are sincere. Kevin Smith has been a filmmaker for, I want to say 20 years now. And his first film is his least polished one. It was Clerks. But it's still perhaps his most favorite. It was the least polished, it was black and white and grainy, and it had easily the lowest budget. But it's still kind of the fan favorite because it's the one that had the most charm. Last but not least, excellence and perfection, agonizing over those things, takes you away from focusing on getting your message across, and takes you away from focusing on getting the emotional center of what you're creating across, essentially communicating with people. Whereas the concept of good enough puts the focus back. Am I communicating what I mean to communicate? Will this super detailed establishing shot help the story or be a distraction to the joke that I'm making? So, final closing bit of advice. Good enough is not bad. Finished is always better than perfect because perfect doesn't exist. And the best that you can do is great. And it's all anybody really wants from you in the first place. Just do the best that you can do and accept yourself for the best that you can do, because I'm willing to bet that your best is pretty freaking good. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to take care of your friends. And I want you to make art, and I want you to finish.